Hello everybody, my name's David, this is David K Reacts, and today is part 2 of a sequence that I am releasing in short succession. Yesterday I reacted to Disturbed's cover of Simon & Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence, and today I'm reacting to a cover of John Cage's enigmatically titled 4 minutes and 33 seconds. This is a performance by the Berliner Philharmoniker and their conductor Kirill Petrenko. This is from the 31st of October 2020, which was shortly before the Philharmoniker was closed for the pandemic in November of 2020. And this is a sort of fascinating performance about the sound of silence. Scholars have actually said that this was originally written by John Cage. It was originally performed in 1952, and this was actually sort of a piece that was written, and then The Sound of Silence was written as a prequel to it. So the two go together as a pairing. And so this was a natural follow-on for me from yesterday's video, even though it was the Disturbed cover we were looking at. I'm not going to belabor the point too much. The Berliner Philharmoniker is a fantastic orchestra. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. I believe this was written originally by John Cage, the point of it being to prove that anybody can play a piece of music. It is designed to be that simple, but I would argue actually it's an extremely difficult piece to play, and it's something that you need to mature into to be able to play properly. I've never actually tried it. It's something I'd be interested in putting into a concert, but it's sort of got its challenges fitting it into sort of a legitimate program notes and a concert set. I don't know, maybe one day. It's certainly something I can play. And I wanted to share this particular version with you all. So, firstly, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. The way this works, I react to the video straight through, beginning to end, without pauses or interruptions. And then after that, I will go back through, watch it again, and make any notes, comments, analyses that I feel like I can offer to the performance or the video itself. Please like the video if you enjoy this. Hit the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. It's free for you. It does incredible things for me. I would really appreciate it. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to know whenever I release videos. Normally Fridays at 5 PM EST. This one was a bit of a bonus, just because I had the time to record it and do it in sequence with The Sound of Silence. And if you would care to, head over to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, and you can support the channel there and potentially contribute to my wish list items. I think right now, the only one on there right now is a microphone, but it would be a huge boon. I need to give the one I'm borrowing back at some point in time, and it would be a boon to have a good one for the channel. And one that's off my desk, so things like my phone vibrating don't happen while I'm recording, or at least they're not as audible. Anyway, without any further delay, let me bring up the screen, and this is the Berliner Philharmoniker performing John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Kirill Petrenko conducting. Difficult piece for the conductor, this one, actually. They probably have the hardest job of all. Such focus. Really just feel the emotion. Such a good first movement. Gentle breath there between movements. The passion in his hands, you can just see them shaking. He's literally sweating from the exertion. It's incredible. Quite marvellous. That, of course, was the traditional abridged performance. It's often done that way. How long did he run? Let's see. Hands came down here, so 3:21. Where's our first movement? Yeah, so he did 3 minutes and 2 seconds roughly. That's pretty standard, I think. It's very few people actually play this in its full form. The abridged form tends to be more popular. It is quite an extraordinary piece. I've heard this performed precisely once live myself, and I have to say the recorded experience does not do it justice. The true experience of this piece is very much from seeing it done live. Because it's the flavour, the immense sort of potency that comes from the orchestra and the amazing guidance of the conductor is sort of entirely flavoured and made more relevant and powerful by the contribution of the audience and indeed the contribution of the room itself. And that really is the source of what makes 4 minutes and 33 what it is. A recorded performance is only really good once. It's not going to be the same watching this back because the experience is something that is very in the moment. But nevertheless, let's go back and watch this again and we'll see what we can take out of it. So yes, back to the beginning. All right, this time I will be interrupting and commenting. Oh, and dropping my phone on the floor apparently. I'll get that in a minute. All right. Sparsely attended, that's a shame. One of these performances is always... it's one of those things that really does benefit from having a larger audience, so there can be greater interaction between them and the performers. Obviously, nice sound, good, the applause. It's a relatively full hall in that sense, but... the more people that are there, the more chance there is for the audience to contribute. This is spectacular. I mean, what a beautiful concert hall. A point of note, as something I always notice in pretty much any concert hall, the organ that we see no, wrong way. Just there, up in that, up in the gallery. I was trying to figure out, I'm assuming the console is directly at the back. Not 100% sure, but yeah, that's this is just, it's a lovely concert hall, and the fact it seems to be very typical these days to have concert halls where the audience can sit behind the orchestra, which, it's an interesting choice. I've never personally wanted to sit there. I feel for pure orchestra it's probably fine, because ultimately you are, you're bathing in the music like you do in this, and you're watching the instrumentalists and the conductor, and it doesn't really matter where you're sitting. But so rarely do I feel like I go to concerts these days that are pure orchestra. There's usually a choral element or something like that, and I want to be able to see them doing their thing. I did just want to take a quick look. So 3 timpani, there's a bass drum off to one side. I can see cymbals. I'm trying to figure out what this person here is playing. Maybe the glockenspiel, I think, the middle percussionist. and then pretty standard sections besides. Quite a robust violin, first violin, or full violin, I guess that's probably first and second. Slightly smaller viola section, that's pretty typical. And a good number of cellos and basses. Just looking at the wind, we've got bassoons, clarinets. I thought I saw a saxophone for a moment, but I realised I think it was the tuba sitting on the ground. Yeah, this is pretty standard. Like it. Notice the note that comes up at the bottom here, John Cage, 4 minutes 33, for any instrument or combination of instruments. And that's the great thing. It doesn't matter what you play, what instrument you play, what ability you have, you can always play this piece of music. See, the piece hasn't begun and the audience is already contributing. That's always typical, of course. You're about to start a piece of music, you see all the orchestra get them ready, and it's like you couldn't have coughed 2 minutes before that. It has to wait until then, and there's just this smattering of coughs all around the audience. No matter where you go, every orchestral concert ever. That's been my experience. You see, fascinating things here. Both the couple sitting behind, they're immediately getting into it. They immediately start commenting to one another, and that little susurration of that whisper will spread to those around them, and it adds to their experience. But also, I just want to say, the subtlety of the conductor. I love that. He's got this beautiful, steady gaze, presumably looking at the first desk of violins, and then just that gentle, I can't even do it that subtly, the twitch of the eyebrow there. I don't know if you saw that. These subtleties of movement really add to the flavor he's bringing to the performance. Oh, genius. I'm finding this cello distracting. The second desk of cellos back at the front of the orchestra, this guy sitting with his bow on his knee, it's just wavering a little, and I keep finding it distracting me. It's all part of the performance, of course, but I feel like the orchestra shouldn't be doing as much as the audience in a performance of this. I have, of course, seen productions, and it's very commonly done, where everybody actually has their instrument to the ready. So they do have the violin bow and the violin, my hands off screen, or, they've got the clarinet ready to play, or the trumpet ready to play, or whatever it happens to be. And they stay like that. But there's a difference in the experience that you have when the instruments are at the ready. There's a tension to it, and there is your mind sort of fills in sound. Seeing it done like this, with the instruments down, it's a much more casual performance, I think. The gentle look across, bringing in the percussion, the double basses, possibly the oboe as well as he sweeps across. It's so simple. This is an odd one, but I also have to say kudos to the usher standing at the back. Hasn't moved a muscle. And if there's one group of people that are, I find always very jittery in concert performances by orchestras, it's the ushers. Unless they're sitting down, I feel like they're constantly moving in the background, and this person hasn't budged an inch. So kudos to them. Oh, the breadth, the widening of the arms. So slight. You can see the audience behind reacting. And such a poignant finish to the movement as we move. And there, everybody just clears themselves a little bit. You get that sense of motion as everybody just shifts around, preparing for the second movement. Also tacet. Tacet, incidentally, means all instrumentalists play. So if you have one instrument, obviously they're playing on their own, but whether you have 2 or 200, every instrument is playing together. You can see the tears in the corner of his eyes. The sadness of the second movement. There's a simple movement there, I don't know if you caught it. This bassoon player that is just off center. If you see, he's looking down at his music just at the beginning, and there's just a simple movement of his eyes coming up to meet the conductor. Presumably as he's coming in for a rest or for a passage he's very familiar with, doesn't need to look at the music so much. Also, I hadn't caught that we've got some nice variety in the brass. The trumpet player at the back, dead center there, playing open, and the player to the back left of the screen, right of the orchestra, actually has a mute in the trumpet, so you've got some nice differences in the brass sound there. It's always nice, it gives you different textures to play with. A mute can have a lot of different effects. There's multiple mutes you can put into a trumpet, and each one changes the timbre and the texture and the quality of the sound in a different way. So mixing those two is a very cool way of kind of offering different ways of hearing music. Oh, I wanted to read this, so note. The title of this work is the total length in minutes and seconds of its performance. At Woodstock, New York, August 29th, 1952, the title was 4 minutes 33 seconds, and the three parts were 33 seconds, 2 minutes 40 seconds, and I think 1 minute 20 seconds? That sounds right. It was performed by David Tudor, pianist, who indicated the beginning of parts by closing the endings by opening the keyboard lid. Ah, I didn't know that. After the Woodstock performance, a copy in proportional notation was made for Erwin Kremen. I can't read what that says. The time lengths of the movements... Oh, for it, maybe? At it. The time lengths of the movements were 30 seconds, 2 minutes 23 seconds, and 1 minute 40 seconds. However, the work may be performed by any instrumentalists, and the movements may last any lengths of time for Erwin Kremen. So this is the Erwin Kremen edition. But yes, that's the key thing about this. It's very, very flexible. You don't have to have the stamina, the endurance. Of course, playing something like woodwind or brass, you have to have the embouchure. That is, be able to hold your mouth in a specific position. For the clarinet, you curl the lip over, close the teeth on the top of the reed, and you're blowing through that. For the flute, of course, you've got a bit more of an open mouth thing. Maintaining that embouchure is tricky, especially if you're early on in your time playing an instrument. It can take a lot of time to build that up. I used to play clarinet and saxophone. If I played them now, I could probably play for about 10 minutes and then I'd be done. And if you're practicing for a performance like this, obviously you don't want to be wearing yourself out, so it makes sense to save the strength by making the performance a little bit shorter. Right, this is on screen for a couple of minutes, sorry. There we go. This gentle movement, this slow end, just letting that final moment, that final ending just drift away, and then the orchestra just again resettling before the beginning of the third movement. And you can see there a bolder start. How a conductor uses their hands is incredibly important. You'll see a lot of differences. A standard 4-beat will be it'll be down, in, out, and back up again. And it's a big difference if the conductor's doing a big, bold, brash, kind of bouncy. It's going to be a much more upbeat orchestra. Whereas if they're doing something that's very, very gentle, and it's a lot more contained, you're going to get a lot quieter sound. Obviously, I can't express fully with the screen and how close I am to it. I can't express that fully. But here, just that opening statement, the hands going out much more rapidly and boldly, further apart than they have been for the other two, you can just get the impression of the power of that introduction to the third movement. Cameraman there, this beautiful framing of that one eye between the ring finger and pinky. That's honestly, moments caught in orchestral concerts can be quite extraordinary. Just subtle angle differences and things like that. You get these beautiful compositions that look almost cinematic, and it's just pure fluke of hands happened to be at the time, and a good angle by the cinematographer. Whether he caught this, here, of course, the hand is going to be in place a little bit longer, so he may have repositioned himself slightly to be able to kind of capitalize on that. And there, you see the emotion in the hand. It's not steady. It's shaking as he's bringing it across, sweeping in more of the orchestra, bringing them maybe a little bit louder. You know, it's hands do everything for a conductor. It's lovely. I enjoy conducting with a baton. I always have done. I said at one point in time, when I bought my first baton, I said I've actually... This was, of course, I started conducting after the Harry Potter films had come out. And I said I bought myself a true magic wand. Because I can stand up in front of a room full of people and I can wave this and amazing things happen. And that's an absolutely true story. It was just, it felt magic to be able to wave a baton and have music come out of the 40 people standing or sitting in front of me. Quite beautiful. So there's a real... You can buy a real magic wand. It's more about having the opportunity to use it correctly. Oh, the passion in his face. He is so committed to seeing this through. The sweat on the brow. Like, almost any performance... I think the conductor should be sweating. They have to put in so much work and effort to make it sound the way it should do, and I have a lot of respect for the amount of effort that he's putting into this. You can see the emotion, his eye movements. Like, that's partly him looking at the orchestra. It's partly just him being overwhelmed by the emotion of the moment. Sorry, I'm talking over the performance. I shouldn't be doing that. There. Oh, that flicker in the eyebrows, the sorrow of the beauty in that moment. It's extraordinary seeing what conductors feel in the moment. It's very... Every performance... This is the great thing about being a conductor. Every single performance is different. And what you feel at one moment... Like, there might be that moment of the song that always makes you want to well up a little bit, or make you smile, or, make you laugh if it's the right kind of music. But any live performance is going to feel different to any other. And so the emotions that you express in the moment performing a piece of music with an orchestra, a band, whatever it happens to be, saxophone quartet, they're always a little bit different. Oh, and I love that you can see, just before he straightens up and lowers his hands, you can see that release of tension as the piece finishes, as it hits that final moment so that he can lower his hands and the orchestra is done playing. It's just, let's see, go back and see that one more time. It's extraordinary watching that in his face. Well, this is something I want to point out to anybody who ever goes to an orchestral concert. Notice this is the first time we hear clapping. There was no clapping between the movements. Okay, young folks going out to orchestral concerts for the first time. If you see a piece... In fact, old folks going out to concerts who should know better. If you see a piece of classical music with multiple movements, you don't clap until the end. Never clap between movements. It's disrespectful to the performers. Sorry, soapbox to one side. That one gets me. But I love there that you get the gentle bow of the head just to signify the piece is done. And technically the audience could start clapping there, but I do enjoy the fact that they don't begin until he asks the orchestra to stand. And then let's just jump back on this last moment. Just that little hint of a smile there as he begins to get them up. That's beautiful. Mr. Petrenko, you should have stayed on stage for longer. You deserve more applause for that than you actually got. Oh, yes, one thing. that was quite stunning. And there you have it. That is John Cage's 4 minutes and 33 seconds. First thing I have to say after that video is thank you for joining me on April the 1st. This was in part serious. 4 minutes and 33 seconds is a genuine piece of music. It is 100% better live because it is entirely about how the room and the people around you respond during the course of the performance. And if you get the opportunity to see a performance of it, I actually genuinely recommend it. It's quite an extraordinary experience. You start to notice things about the space you are in you would never see before. You get awareness of the people around you in a way that you don't normally. And actually genuinely seeing how the orchestra responds is fascinating too. MVP for this performance, Mr. Kirill Petrenko. The way he committed to that was extraordinary. That's a performance in itself. Conductors are performing. Make no mistake, just because they're standing up in front of everybody else waving their arms, they're keeping time. They're making sure that people come in at the right moment, but they are also performing. They are still an instrument as a part of the orchestra. They're just a guide. But they are very, very much that. And his commitment to this was quite stunning. I do feel like to complete this process, I need to come up with some kind of appropriate clickbaity image. And since all of my images are, I don't edit something together. They are always direct clips from the video that I record. Please bear with me while I come up with something suitably appropriate. I'm thinking maybe something like yeah, that's probably good. Or maybe possibly one of those. I clip several usually during the course of one of these, and I just use whichever one speaks to me the most at the moment. Usually it's a lot of me laughing. There's some. I guess I could always do the. Could try one of those. See if that works. This is, as I said, this is a partly serious reaction. The reason for it and the rationale. This is not a sequel to, or a prequel to The Sound of Silence. Or at least not to my knowledge. Unless Simon and Garfunkel weirdly listened to this right before writing The Sound of Silence. This is me being slightly goofy because, you know, how do you react to 3 minutes and 2 seconds or whatever it was, 3 minutes and 20 seconds of silence. But, you know, don't take this all with take the humor with a grain of salt as much as you take the reaction with a grain of salt. Because I do want to credit the Berliner Philharmoniker for an excellent performance. As I said, it's not the same the second time. That was the first time I had seen it through. When I reacted to it, and it is actually genuinely, I was being goofy deliberately, but it is actually genuinely quite an extraordinary experience to have. It's definitely not the same recorded, and it's absolutely not the same seeing the same performance a second time. So just bear that in mind. But if you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe to the channel. This is not my normal, well, I mean, this is how my normal fare works, but I usually am not poking quite so much fun at the process of reacting. Do hit the notification bell, and if you would like to, head over to buymeacoffee.com/DavidKReacts, where you can support the channel. Thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic day, afternoon, night, morning, third lunchtime, April Fools, whatever else, and I just need to make sure I release this early enough in the morning that I can legitimately claim April Fools all over the world. So this will probably come out at midnight. Anyway, take care, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.